The next category is really very large, and this is probably the bulk of my presentation this morning. It's Neuro-Harmony. Now, Neuro-Harmony is a nonsensical word. I made it up. But I have noticed that people are putting the word neuro in front of almost anything these days, and I didn't see why I couldn't do that as well. There's neuroscience, neurosurgery, neuroartistry, neuro-everything. So Neuro-Harmony. And this is a term I've made up to describe the skills and drills aspect of applied keyboard theory. By using technical exercises, we can build up the knowledge of keyboard geography, understanding the basic constructions of scales and chords, and build this into something that can become fodder for improvisation. So there is a bit of sliding scale in these 5 areas I'm going to look at: chord crawl, scale extensions, cadential progressions, sequences, and musical cliches. Some of them, the very first one, chord crawl, is really an exercise which builds certain moves into the hand. It can be creative, it can certainly be applied creatively, but basically I'm taking the hand of a young person and just getting them to do a whole bunch of things before they really know what's going on. And while they're doing these moves, they're also hearing them. So it's a fairly enriched ear development as well. So let's look at some chord crawls, and I think for this part I'm probably better off going to the piano and playing through some of these activities. What do students do in the beginning in terms of their technical development? Well, once they've been playing for a few months, we usually introduce them to pentascales followed by a chord. So the major and minor 5-finger patterns. Triad may take some time, so depending on the age of the child, this will happen early in the first year or quite a bit later in the first year. But when we're at this stage where we have chords that are coming through with some sort of physical reliability, we can start to build this into an applied keyboard theory exercise. So a chord crawl can have a student forming a major followed by a minor triad, and then taking that around the keyboard. I like to be I like my students to be versatile in their approaches and be able to work intervallically as well as by key signature or cycle of fifths. So the next thing I might do is move, that was a C major, C minor chord. The next thing I might do is a G major, G minor chord. If I'm going to continue with the cycle of fifths approach, I'll move to D major, D minor. The first thing we encounter with D, of course, is that the colors seem to be reversed. We start with a black note and then lower it to the minor. So they're learning to listen to the sounds, and if they stumble on the wrong chord first, no matter. You learn more by making these little errors and by stumbling than by having somebody show you the right way all the time. But what this turns into is a little chord crawl in which on every degree of the scale, maybe starting white and then introducing white and black notes, we can get them playing major minor chords and hearing the difference in quality. Now these can be extended to include other colors, and this can happen really quite early, second or third year of study. A major chord, if you raise the fifth, becomes an augmented triad. Back to major, we'll turn it into a minor. Let's lower the fifth now. It's diminished. We've gone through every color or quality of standard triads, and now it's time to lower the thumb. It doesn't matter what note they start on. It doesn't matter if they do right hand or left hand. I would recommend sitting and sort of doggedly going through the entire octave. It takes a long time, but during the course of several lessons or several weeks, they will have experienced every standard triad, barring sus chords, in existence. They will have played all 48 triads, every major, every minor, every augmented, and every diminished. And their hands are starting to become comfortable with these shapes. Now we can extend this to include sevenths as well. And the application to ear, I think, should be obvious. There's no reason why we have to wait till our students are working on Fiorellis or Clementi sonatinas before we ask them to distinguish a major triad from a minor triad. And in fact, a lot of our students know that there are sevenths, but they're really foggy on subtypes. So if we start with a dominant seventh chord, raise the top note, and make it a major seventh, then we can come back to a minor seven flat five, or what we call a half diminished seventh, usually in classical terminology. On every seventh in existence, but we've covered a lot of them, and we've certainly covered everything that would come up in harmony courses from the basic to the advanced level. In fact, even the intermediate level, we've covered everything in that curriculum. So we started with the dominant seventh type chord. Now what happens when I lower the thumb is that I'm ready to start again. I've got another dominant seventh type chord, or a major minor seventh, if you prefer that terminology. So that's what chord curls are, and you can make up different versions of these, and you can add different chord types. But I find them very useful, especially with young students, because it builds in a lot of knowledge right into the hands, right into the muscles, and we can draw on that